I was just gonna have you introduce yourself at the end, and we're like, what?
We're just like, okay, how did he get here?
Does anyone screen art, people?
Dang it, Karen.
Hello, listeners, and thank you for tuning into Those Nerds Over There. This is an enthusiast podcast centered around celebrating and discussing nerd culture. We're your hosts. I'm Alan.
And I'm Sal.
And I'm Jake.
What? Who's this?
You guys left the back door open. Then I came on.
Oh, well, security.
No!
Karen.
Karen can't do anything.
Karen can't stop me now.
So Jake, let the people know who you are.
Okay, that would probably be best. So I'm Jake. I'm really good friends with both Alan and Sal. I actually knew Alan and Sal before Alan knew Alan and Sal.
Yep. Was it this podcast exists in part because of Jake? He introduced me to Sal.
Yay.
Yay. So, I saw them doing the podcast, and I listened to all of them because I work 8 hours a day at a factory, and I basically listen to podcasts all day long. And I've been following their podcasts, and I was like, man, I love the stuff they're talking about. And these are like my best friends. Why am I not on their podcast sometimes?
Well, we are fixing that today.
Yes. So right. Finally, I'm here to nerd out with my friends. I'm an avid game player. I really, really love the indie scene. I don't have a lot of the newer consoles and stuff, but I still love following the indie scene of games, anime, nerd culture, all that stuff. Really fun, really interesting to me. I love the positivity that this podcast spreads, and I can't wait to enjoy a sweet episode with my bros.
Oh, thanks, Jake.
Too sentimental for me.
Oh, and the world is darkness.
There you go. All right, shall we jump into our nerd question?
All right, we shall. For those first-time listeners, this is what we normally call the nut jar, but unfortunately I am making my way through a jar of nuts. But these are...
Shame.
They're dry, and we live in a place that is scarce on water. It is hard, so... These are listener-submitted questions. They're kind of cool discussion questions that fans send and we talk about on the show. If you want a question aired, feel free to send those to our email, thosenerdscast@gmail.com, or our Twitter @thosenerdscast. Be sure to include some kind of like social media tags so we can include that and direct people to you. But this one comes from my previous roommate, Forrest.
Oh, look at that. Forrest is back.
Yep. Today, Forrest asks, thoughts on Bowsette?
Oh, no!
And any variations?
No! No! No!
I forgot this question was in here.
Forrest, I love you. Where are you? So I can just give you a big hug.
No.
You can find him on twitch.tv/Kahoy, Kahoyy. But who wants to go first on their thoughts on Bowsette?
I will take the lead on this. Since I'm the only one who loves Bowsette. I remember when we did our year in review, Bowsette was my favorite meme of 2018.
I'm not going to fault you, but you need to explain yourself.
Okay, so the thing is, if the community can make a waifu out of nothing, essentially.
Oh my god.
Shouldn't that be celebrated?
What happened? Oh my lord.
The problem is, I think you're starting with the premise that all waifus are good waifus. There are trash tier waifus, Sal.
I mean, but Bowsette isn't one of them. But regardless of what you think of Bowsette, the whole idea of Bowsette is taking this item that turns people into waifus.
Okay, I think I can I can see why you like it more now.
What about the variations? Were there any other ones that you latched onto, Sal? Bowsette, Chain Chompette, any of them?
I actually really liked the Boo one because it was so ridiculous. It was like this peach, and it had like these massive fangs. And I was like, oh god, that's terrifying, but I'm into this.
Actually, I have to admit, the meme got really funny. I don't know if you guys saw. People started putting the crown on inanimate objects. There was one, I don't know where it is, but it's a stumpette, and some guy like had the crown and threw it. I think it was like a printout or something. He threw it on a tree stump outside, and then it was a picture of it, and it was like this mangly, disgusting thing. I was cracking up. But the memes got pretty good from that one, so I actually have to agree with Sal. The memes were great.
Yeah, and it was like one of the only memes that I was there for its inception and as it was going on, so it was an experience for me.
How about you, Jacob? Do you remember where you were when Bowsette came into creation?
Yes. I woke up one morning right before I went to work when I was still living in Las Vegas, and I saw a Reddit post about it, and it was just exploding, like this one particular post. And I thought to myself, this, it's one post, big deal. People are making jokes about this whole crown changing toad and everything, whatever. This went on for months, and it never stopped.
The funny thing is, like, no one cares about the toad anymore. Like,
no.
Toadette's completely irrelevant in this whole equation. What about you, Alan?
I remember just being in the kitchen when my roommates and we were browsing through Twitter looking at all the Bowsettes, and I was just this was the day after, I was just stunned. I'm always this is one of the cool parts I think that occurs with Bowsette and everything new that comes out. It's like when artists just like are able to create something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just the flood of Bowsette art, which I may not exactly be a Bowsette fan. I thought that was incredible.
Yeah, they just flock to these new things. And what else was incredible? Like, the day of, a couple hours into Bowsette, there was already cosplays, and I was like, how did you do this so fast?
That's right. No, there was a cosplay day too. I remember that one. Oh my goodness.
It was great. I love everything about it. Rest in peace, Bowsette, because you haven't been relevant.
Oh, good.
Time will be split into before Bowsette and after Bowsette.
Perfect.
Well, let's, what about you, listeners? Let's revive this, old meme.
Because that's always a good idea.
Remember when there was that big trend where people would revive old memes, but they would deep fry them?
What? Yeah, I remember deep fried memes.
I love deep fried memes. They crack me up so much.
Oh dear.
All right, Jacob.
Yes?
We want to know what you got excited about this week.
Well, what I got excited about this week was I read that Dwarf Fortress, a really awesome indie game, is going to get a port onto Steam. So it's going to be officially on the Steam store.
Oh, it's going to? So it has a release date?
I think it's undetermined right now, but it is on its Steam store, right? Like, so you go into Steam and you look it up and you find it, and it says it's on there. It just says release time. It says something really interesting last time I checked. It was like time is an illusion or something like that.
It says time. I have it pulled up. It says time is subjective.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Now they're memeing us.
Dude, you guys need to understand, the Dwarf Fortress community, they are like the hardest memers I've ever seen. You go look at the Dwarf Fortress wiki, and there's layers upon layers of memes inside the game. But I guess it probably helps first to talk about what the game is, so I should probably get into that first.
Oh, true. I don't think Sal knows what Dwarf Fortress is.
I mean, I've looked at it, and I was I just thought to myself, I need to be on a higher level of intelligence to play this game.
Oh man, it's true. I won't try and be apologetic about it or try and like hide its flaws. It's very, very hard to get into. Has a huge wall of people who've never played it. But the game is fantastic. So Dwarf Fortress, the wiki describes it as a part construction, part management simulation, part roguelike indie video game. And I think that's probably the best way to describe it. So the main premise of the game is you pick a plot. Well, actually, I gotta backtrack because that's not even the first part of the game. So the first part of the game is the game itself is a world generator. And so what happens is you'll go in and you'll set the ramifications of your world, which, I mean, they give you so much stuff to play with. How big your world is, what kind of resources you want your world, how much history you want your world to have. And this engine that they made in Dwarf Fortress crafts an entire world for you to play in. Like, it is so complex, narrative heavy. They even have files and files and files you can go read if you want to see the history of your world, which records everything from like mega beasts that came onto the earth and destroyed kingdoms to like very specific things like Lord Farquaad destroying Lady whatever Face's arm with his giant sword and stuff.
It's ridiculous. The guy from Shrek.
Yes. I couldn't think of a better name.
Is all this lore relevant to playing the game?
It can be, yes.
Okay.
Because what happens in the lore is what shapes the world that you're playing on. So kingdoms will rise and fall and be destroyed, and you might actually see neighbors in your world that were remnants of somebody in the past in your world. And that's if you want to use the history, right? You can also decide to have no history in your world, and you can start off making the history yourself. So it's crazy. I mean, that alone is ridiculous. You could take a log inside of where they record it for your world, and you could make an entire D&D campaign out of that, if you wanted to. It's ridiculous.
I'm gonna write that down real quick.
Dude, you should. Honestly, there's so much stuff in there. So many good ideas. But so anyways, so the game is set in an old world kind of thing. You know, you got dwarves and elves. Think of like Tolkien-esque kind of...
High fantasy.
Yes, very high fantasy. Lots of magic. But the dwarves themselves don't often use magic. But that's kind of beside the point. So the main gameplay of this is the fortress mode. And in the fortress mode, you pick a plot of land, and you take a caravan of dwarves over there, and you start with, I think, about 7, maybe 8. And you start off and basically fend for yourself in the wilderness. You collect supplies, you can build structures, you can dig into the ground and build structures underground. You can collect minerals, resources, all kinds of stuff. And you lead these dwarves to create a fortress to defend yourself against the outside world. And the outside world has all kinds of horrible, crazy beasts that you can be ravaged by, destroyed by. There's also tons of plants, tons of minerals, tons of things, tons of workshops you can make. And this is where things get really complicated. So the way the game works is you don't actually control the dwarves individually, right? And you can think of maybe like a real-time strategy where you have your character, say League of Legends, right? You have your main character, and you're selecting them, and you're clicking them, you're moving them around. You have direct control. The dwarves are not like that. They're more of a Sims-esque kind of thing, where you kind of give instructions, and the dwarves will do things kind of on their own terms when they feel like it.
Yeah.
So, and here's the other layer of complexity. Depending on what designation you do. So let's say I tell my dwarves, or I designate a little plot, and I say, okay, dwarves, dig in this spot. I want you to dig up all the dirt. Well, for the dwarves to actually do that, you have to designate some of them as a certain class. And there's a bunch of classes in the game. You have miners, you have like carpentry workers, you have all kinds of stuff.
The complexity deepens.
I remember, Jacob, you got me into this game, and you can't even start this game without reading like the startup, which tells you all the hotkeys and the commands to just get, the plots of land picked out and assigning the classes.
Oh yeah. I won't lie, this game is hard to get into. I spent the first 3 days of playing this game not playing the game, just reading the wiki. if that tells you anything.
But I mean, despite the difficulty, I do recall like it was fun in that like roguelike frustrating kind of way, and especially since the old art like assets were just like ASCII art. That was really fun to look at as it converts to different colors.
Yeah, the ASCII art's actually, if you have a little bit of an imagination, the ASCII art's really fun. And there also is not really an end goal to the game either. The goal is just amass as much treasure as you can and survive, which is, it really depends on your personality type. Because I think the game, how it best speaks to players, is if you're the type of game player where you like to min-max things, you like to increase your chances, you like to increase your hull, you like to upgrade your characters, you like to, hoard up as much stuff as you can, it really appeals to those kinds of players. And I know I get a very similar feel. You guys know Final Fantasy Tactics, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now in Final Fantasy Tactics, there's like a whole other side of the game, which is min-maxing your team, like buying new upgrades, putting new items on your people, getting to learn skills, getting your team nice and perfect. And there's almost a whole other half to the game that's not even really playing the game. It's just buffing your characters as much as you can and min-maxing them. Dwarf Fortress encompasses this perfectly, in that all you want to do is just amass as much as you can and make your fortress as strong as it can be. But there's so much more. If that's not what you want to do, you can do anything you want in this game. So, some classes for the dwarves. You have mining, woodworking, stoneworking, hunting, healthcare, farming, fishing, metalsmithing, jewelry, crafts, engineering, hauling. And those are the main categories, because those all break into subcategories. For example, in the crafts category, you have bookbinding, bone carving, clothes making, glass making, glazing, leatherworking, pottery, stone crafting, strand extraction, waxworking, weaving, wood crafting. In the farming section, you have beekeeping, brewing, butchery, cheese making, cooking, dyeing, farming, lime making, milking, milling, plant gathering, plant processing, potash mashing, shearing, soap making, spinning, tanning, wood burning. Yes, you can make potash.
Wood burning is a class.
Why do each of these need its own distinct role?
No, this matters because there's different workshops. Okay? So you have different workshops. So you have... Here, wait, I'll find the workshops. Oh, wait, maybe they don't list the workshops anywhere. Oh, I have to look up the industries. That's right.
Oh goodness. I think we might get the point.
Whatever the case. So there's industries for everything. I mean, there's wood industries, stone industries, beekeeping industries, armors, ceramics, gems, glass, furniture, fuels, foods, finished goods, paper, weapons, extracts, textiles, soaps, administration, healthcare, military, and trading. And also libraries.
Hey, this seems like Sandbox the game.
Yes, that is without question. So, one of the great things about this coming to Steam, so as you guys can see so far, this is a crazy in-depth game. On top of all this, the dwarves themselves all have personality traits. They have things about them that they like, that they dislike. They have strengths, they have weaknesses. They even have like certain frailties and unfrailties. So for example, you might have a dwarf that's really good at certain skills, but health-wise, he might not have a lot of endurance, and he might have a lot of agility, but he might not be very resistant to poisons and weaknesses like that. So there's a whole bunch to consider. On top of this, there's enemies galore, there's stuff you can do galore, and this is very daunting for new players to get into. I won't lie. I mean, it's very daunting. If you don't know anything about what's going on, the game's almost impossible to understand. Why it's so great it's coming to Steam is that the Steam Workshop provides an awesome opportunity for the community to create anything for the game. And that could include tutorials to help new players get more immersed and understand the rules of the game. This could also mean creating texture packs. So for people who don't understand the ASCII or just simply don't like it, you can have new texture packs that allow you to have a more visual sense of what's going on in the game. And this is all very helpful for getting more players into it, getting more players talking about it. And of course, Steam is just a great platform for getting more people to know about it in general. So it's good stuff.
Right. Yeah, the Steam Community Workshop is always like the best part of Steam. And I can definitely see it helping people get into this game, because one of the games I really like is Don't Starve. And people don't like getting into that game because it's so hard. But, you know, you just throw a couple mods that help you and it can be a lot more fun. So
absolutely. I think one of the great strengths this is going to bring too is hopefully I'm really hoping for tutorials. I think that's the best thing. If somebody had a very clear tutorial, you don't necessarily have to do everything in this game. I think a great example of this, you guys played Prison Architect, right?
A little bit.
No.
Oh, you guys haven't played Prison Architect? Okay, well, for any viewers, our listeners right now who enjoy Prison Architect, this game is like Prison Architect on steroids. But Prison Architect has a really great tutorial in the beginning that I think really helps get new players acquainted. And if Dwarf Fortress had something like this in the Steam Workshop, I think that would make it so much easier for people to get into.
I see.
I can give some fun examples of what people do in this game.
Sure.
So there is a trap and lever and pulley and mechanic system in this game that's way deeper than Minecraft's. So people have done crazy things in this game. They've made computers. They make wonderful fun traps for like flinging things. Some guy made a vampire cannon by like making a bridge and getting vampires to stand on it and then shooting them off with levers and traps so that they could fling vampires into goblins, and then the vampires would kill all the goblins once they flung over to them. There's so much fun stuff to do in this game. It's just immense. I mean, you really could continue playing this game for probably your entire lifetime and not get to the end of different things you can do, because it lasts about as far as an imagination can run.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like, I mean, just from the sound of people making computers and vampire catapults, it really seems like creativity is like your limiting factor here.
Yes, absolutely. Creativity is the limit. I mean, you can really do some crazy stuff in here. It's so much fun, too. The community, I can't stress this enough. Once you get into the community, especially through the forums, they have all their inside jokes on the game. And one of the biggest inside jokes, right, is they have this term fun. But fun doesn't really mean fun. Fun is like this highly
subjective.
It is a very subjective thing. For them, they'll like, if you come across something difficult that kills off your entire fortress, that's fun, right? In this game, they joke that you basically have to get destroyed by the game to finally see why it's fun. But then once you like totally get wrecked by the game, then everything starts to become fun. Like, oh, one of your dwarves gets sick and throws a tantrum and starts eating all the other dwarves. Fun. Like, oh, you dug too deep into the caverns and now a colossal beast that's made of quartz is coming up and none of your dwarves can fight it because they're using steel weapons and it hardly hurts it. Fun.
See, that's funny because I get that.
Like, you go off the deep end.
like once you're destroyed by a game, then you're accepting the challenge to not have that happen to you the next time around, and that's where the fun comes in usually.
Right, and that's the fun of this game. It's stupid hard, and I won't lie. You can set up the game so that it's a relatively easy play, but if you're just playing on a normal playthrough, it's really hard. But once you kind of get past the idea that the game is all about winning something, and you just understand that the game's about the experience, everything becomes fun. Like, oh, I remember this one time. It was so great. So I think this is my second playthrough. I was on a sandy beach. So there's like nothing for me to eat for one, because there's no food growing on the sandy beach. And I'm like, oh shoot. So I dig into the ground and I start growing underground, like dark mushrooms and stuff to eat instead. And so, we're chilling okay, but most of my dwarves are really upset and unhappy because we don't have a variety of stuff to eat. And then all of a sudden, these things start coming out of the sea. They're like sea people.
What the?
Just sea people.
Yes, they're like... the way it describes it is it's men who have like scales on their faces and look like fish, if I remember right. And they start coming out of the sea and they start taking my dwarves away.
Wait. Was there a trigger for this event, or did this just happen unprompted?
Unprompted. They just start coming out of the sea. And so the dwarves initially, they were trying to fight them off, and they did a pretty good job, because I had a couple hunter dwarves that had crossbows that knew how to do stuff, but they started taking all of my chickens and cats. And I was like, dang it, like, what are we going to eat? We don't have any eggs now. So
chickens and
cats are really good. Okay, so cats are important, because cats scare off goblins, because there's lots of enemies that come invisible, and cats can detect invisible enemies. So you want cats around to detect those things. So all of a sudden they start eating all my cats, and I'm like, if goblins come by, I'm gonna get wrecked. You sea people need to quit it. And of course you can't eat the sea people flesh. Their corpses just sit there and stink up the land after you kill them, so... And worst of all, we killed a couple inside of the fortress, and once the body died, it started, like, disintegrating, and it created miasma. And a bunch of my dwarves got pissed off because there's miasma in their bedrooms, which I don't blame them for, because who wants miasma in their bedrooms? Then one threw a tantrum, and when dwarves throw a tantrum, you can't control them any longer, and they're unpredictable in what they do. and they usually run around and destroy things. And the problem is, let's say, a dwarf throws a tantrum and runs into another dwarf's bedroom, and he just destroys that dwarf's bed. Well, that dwarf's gonna get pissed off and throw a tantrum too. And all of a sudden, you have a tantrum spiral where they're all tantruming, and your fortress is done for because everybody starts eating each other.
Why does this always end in cannibalism?
It doesn't always, but it does happen pretty often. Like, I remember I had a great dwarf that was like the big warrior of them all, and he all of a sudden was in a strange mood and threw a tantrum, and he ended up tearing off the arm of his wife, and he started berating all the other dwarves with the arm of his dead wife. I was like, what is happening? And like in the combat log, it was all like Tarnok slapped so-and-so with so-and-so's arm. So he's running around wielding the disembodied arm of his loved one, swinging it around, hitting people. I'm like, what is this game?
That is a level of detail that I'm like, what? They programmed, the person programmed this into the game.
Yes. And it is a roguelike because it's all randomized. There's obviously a level of, I'm not a programmer, so I couldn't tell you what, but there is a level of programming where they have a little bit of consistency, but then it's just randomly generated, and some of the strangest things happen.
Yeah, all I'm getting is dwarves are terrifying.
Only if they don't have their booze. The dwarves like practically never drink water. They only want booze. So you have to brew them stuff all the time. That's great.
I believe it.
But yeah, so that's basically Dwarf Fortress. That's what I'm excited about. I'm really happy that it's coming to Steam because it's a great game. I love the game. But understandably, I know why people aren't in the game. But hopefully Steam is a great way for people to get into it. I hope so.
Yes, more complex cannibalism.
Put that on a bumper sticker.
I would like to offer up. I know I was frustrated at a lot of the adventuring stuff, but one of the most relaxing portions of the game I liked was just designing your fortress.
Yeah, there are definitely you guys have played Sims, of course, right?
Yeah.
Tried to.
Now, you got your Sims players who just like designing the house, right? And that's perfectly fine. People like doing that. That's awesome. That's another thing for you to join Dwarf Fortress is just building your fort. Putting nice walls on it. You can do a lot of stuff too. I mean, you can furnish the walls with like gems and gold. You can have them engrave the walls so everything looks prettier. You can get texture packs too that look really nice. Make the game look really fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if you want the ultimate sandbox game, go check out Dwarf Fortress.
Yeah.
Before we move on, we wanted to put a promo here for Livestream for the Cure. It's this amazing charity livestream that the hosts of the Epic Film Guys podcast put on every year, but we'll let you hear it from their mouths.
I'm Nick.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Brian, and we're the hosts of the Epic Film Guys podcast.
With the live stream for the Cure coming May 17th, we want to know,
What's
your story?
The Livestream for the Cure is a charity event to raise money for the Cancer Research Institute for a future free of all forms of cancer.
It's also a celebration of those we've loved, those we've lost, and those who continue to fight.
This event is so much bigger than just our little show. It's about all of us and how we've been affected by cancer. Throughout the 40-hour live stream for the Cure, we'll be sharing your photos and stories so we can honor who we're fighting for.
Please visit www.livestreamforthecure.com/whatsyourstory and learn how you can share your story with us.
Together, we can make a difference.
So Sal, what did you get excited about this week?
All right. So I told myself this, not anybody else, but I told myself I wouldn't talk about Magic the Gathering again. But here I am.
Sal, I thought we got you off this addiction a long time ago.
Where's the intervention banner? So my topic is the next set for Magic the Gathering. It is called War of the Spark. And I apologize in advance because I'm gonna do like a massive lore dump.
I'm ready.
So, first of all, it is the third set of the new Ravnica block that's a part of Magic the Gathering. And it comes out April 25th for people that play Magic Arena, and April 27th through the 28th for people who play in paper. And so this set is about this huge war called War of the Spark. The Spark is where planeswalkers in this Magic universe get their powers from, so that's why it's called War of the Spark. And so let me just get into this whole story real fast. So you're probably going to hear a bunch of names and things that you don't know, but just bear with me for a second. All right. So this story is about Nico Bolas, who is who is a elder dragon who is a planeswalker, and he is searching for the ability to become the most powerful being in the multiverse. So to do this, he needs to cast this spell called the Elder Spell, and it requires a lot of work. So going backwards a couple sets during Kaladesh.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is where this story starts, and what he does is he acquires these minions who are other planeswalkers. So the first planeswalker being Tezzeret. He sends Tezzeret to Kaladesh to create this artifact called the Planar Bridge, which lets you send non-living things to other places in the multiverse. So normally, to get to other places in the multiverse, you have to planeswalk, but you can't planeswalk with a bunch of things, which is why you need the Planar Bridge. So after that, he goes to the plains of Amonkhet, which is a Egyptian-inspired world where he makes himself the god of this world and gets people to worship him.
As you do.
Yes, as you do. And he creates this army called the Eternals, which are just a bunch of zombies, which is important because the Planar Bridge cannot transport living things. But apparently zombies aren't living, so you know. So then we move on to the plane of Ixalan, which is the set of where the world is ruled by these dinosaurs and these savage creatures. And there he sends one of his minions named Veraska. She is a Gorgon planeswalker, and she goes there to acquire the Immortal Sun, which is an ancient artifact that makes it so planeswalkers cannot planeswalk. And so that brings us to Ravnica, which is where this block first started. And what's happening is Nico Bolas has planted his minions in Ravnica to stir up trouble so that people won't know he's doing this big scheme. And so what happens is he starts this war between all the 10 guilds of Ravnica, and it makes it so all these planeswalkers from other planes wants to stop him from taking over Ravnica, because Ravnica is a very important planes to most planeswalkers. So what happens is all these planeswalkers, and I'm saying all, like any planeswalker you know is coming to this plane right now to stop Nico Bolas. All these planeswalkers come over and he sets up the Immortal Sun so they can't escape. And this is important because to cast this spell, he needs to harvest the sparks of every planeswalker that has come over so he can reach this eternal power. And so that is the whole storyline of War of the Spark and this new Ravnica set.
I always like how when a big bad villain wants to be like the strongest, most eternal person, he has two options. Either he's got to just become better than everyone else, or he's got to just knock everyone else down. And that seems like that's what's going on here. He's just going to push everyone down.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, that's interesting.
Okay, when you two introduced me to Magic, I had never known about, the intense background story to the game, and every time Sally, you tell me about these new expansions, what's going on, I'm always just in this stunned disbelief that this is a story that's being told through trading cards.
Yeah, a card game.
But like, I'm listening to you recount like the past few expansions and what's going on with this story. I'm just like. And, in D&D, we got the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, and previously we had plane shifts to both Ixalan and Amonkhet and other places. I'm just like, why? There's this really cool story, and it's great it's being told in cards. I think they could turn this into a bunch of different, like, pre-built modules.
You're probably right, but, they do what they do.
There's Alan seeing with his D&D DM eyes.
I'm sorry, everything filtered through that now. But I'm just like, this sounds so cool. And then you sent me that cinematic before. And
yes.
It's just baffling how all this is just only in cards.
Yeah, so, they released a cinematic on YouTube of what's happening during this set. And it's this cool, like, walk through time backwards where Liliana is confronting Nico Bolas. And it has this cover of In the End by Linkin Park in the background. It's just amazingly animated. And you're just like, why isn't this a show or a movie? Why is this a card game?
You showed me that, and I thought it was a video game trailer. Look it up. Like, the way the whole thing goes is backwards. It's just like, oh my god.
It needs to be watched.
It does.
So the reason why this set in particular is so important is because they are kind of changing the way Magic is played in the card game, because there's going to be 36 Planeswalker cards in this set.
Wow.
Yeah, so much so that they're going to be at uncommon and rare rarity, which is unprecedented because Planeswalker cards are only ever mythic rarity. And I'm going to show you some examples of how storytelling is played out through these cards. So this card is called No Escape. It's Jace looking up at the artifact of the Immortal Sun and realizing that they are trapped on Ravnica.
Oh.
This one called Relentless Advance, and it's the army of the dead coming through the planar bridge. And, what gives these cards such flavor is the flavor text on the cards. So for Relentless Advance, it says they approach in formation, every movement efficient and sure. They halt, listen, and then press on in silent unison. It's so easy for people that play this game to miss out on how much the card is giving you because you're just playing the card as part of the game, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more to these cards than just, this card gives me mana and stuff. One of the really exciting things I'm actually excited for in this set is they're bringing back all the Planeswalkers you know and love, and two of them in particular. One is named Sorin Markov, and he is a
vampire?
Yes, he is a vampire.
With a name like that.
Here's his card. And another character named Nahiri, and she is a Kor, which is like a race of these people that are like very white-skinned, and she is known as a lithomancer. So she can control stone and metal and stuff. And so these two characters in particular have a story going on during this time because they have a history. So long ago, when all the Planeswalkers were back on the planes where the Eldrazi came in, and I forget the plane's name at the moment, but the Eldrazi are these like massive world-eating creatures. Soren and Nahiri teamed up with this other planeswalker named Ugin, and they stopped the Eldrazi basically from consuming this world, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened after that is the Eldrazi came back in a different set, and Nahiri, because that's Nahiri's home world, called back to Ugin and Soren, and Ugin and Soren did not come to help. And so what happened was Nahiri became like very furious and went over to the plane of Innistrad, which is where Soren is from, and went to seek out revenge for not helping. And what happened was Soren imprisoned her in this thing called the Hell Vault because he just didn't want to deal with it. So Nahiri was like trapped in this Hell Vault for like 6,000 years or something before she got out. And once she got out of her rage, she summoned one of the Eldrazi's to the plane of Innistrad to destroy the planes so Soren could feel the pain she felt. And Soren came back and tried to fix the problem, and they ended up trapping the Eldrazi in the moon, but that's beside the point. So Soren goes back to his manor, and Nahiri encases Soren in a wall and traps him there, just like she was trapped in a Hell Vault. So Soren actually gets out, and now comes Ravnica. They both get summoned to this plane, and Nicol Bolas basically wants to destroy the world, but they don't care about that. They hate each other so much that they're just gonna battle through this whole war, and it is depicted on this card right here.
They have a side story going.
Yeah. It's called Single Combat, and the flavor text says, "Not even a threat to the entire multiverse could persuade them to put aside their feud."
Oh, that's amazing. And you don't even get, like, the rich story of what's going on in there if you don't know the backstory.
Yeah, and there's several cards actually dedicated to this. So this one is called Nahiri's Stoneblades, and it says, "The ancient planeswalker Soren and Nahiri battled across Ravnica, their blows cutting as deep as their grudge." There's this one called Soren's Thirst. It's a quote by Nahiri, and it says, "I see you're out of the wall." And oh man, that has me so excited to see what happens with these two characters in particular, because they're just fighting each other while this war around them is happening, and they don't even care. But yeah, just so many of the cards have side stories and these main storylines, and it's just this big war of all these characters. It's like Avengers Endgame, you know, the most ambitious crossover.
Oh, this is amazing. I didn't realize how rich this story was.
There's something really scary that's just kind of come across my mind, and I'm kind of getting some goosebumps. Because, like, you know, you just explained the whole story between Soren and Nahiri, and all the other planeswalkers that show up, they have their own stories, and I think a cool part is, like, they update the cards and whatever to go along with the story. I'm looking at, like, Garrick, right? He used to be green, and then he got cursed, and then he became green-black, right?
Yeah.
But, like, if during this war, because we see during the trailer one of the, whatever zombie people tore the spark out of someone, I assume that was a planeswalker, and they died.
Yes.
Are Wizards of the Coast going to stop printing the planeswalkers that die during this set?
See.
That sounds so cool, but also, like, really scary.
Yeah, so that is actually one of the big deals about this set is planeswalkers are going to die. We just don't know who and what's going to happen after that. Are they going to pull like comics and start retconning things? Or are those planeswalkers just never going to come back again? So really exciting.
I said it earlier, I'm baffled, like, this amount of drama in this card game.
Yes, it's so good. If you've
amazing.
never played Magic, like it's so fun to get into, not just because the card game itself is so fun to play, but the backstory and lore of all these characters is just phenomenal.
like during the trailer, you watch Gideon getting surrounded, and this idea now that like if he died during there would be no Gideon card sounds scary.
Yeah.
And really exciting also though. Like holy crap.
Oh man, you guys make me want to play Magic again. All my cards are back in Las Vegas.
Dude, MTG Arena is the only thing that's prevented me from like spending money on cards.
Yeah, so if you do want to get in this game, MTG Arena is a free-to-play Magic game. It is really solid, and you don't have to spend a dime because they have in-game currency. So,
nice.
There's that. It only has, it has a rotation, so, whatever's in Standard, which is, 3 sets, it only has those cards in the game, but it's still just so much fun, and I recommend it to anybody that wants to get into Magic because their tutorial is really nice. So, yeah, that's what I got into.
This is a card game I played as a teenager, and I didn't realize there were such heavy stakes that these characters will die and then they will never be printed again.
Right.
I guess you end up taking the cards for granted, right? Like you see so many Chandras.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Tybalt can die and no one will care.
Right. Tybalt's gonna be in this set. So let's see what happens.
Oh my goodness.
All right, Alan.
So
what did you get excited about this week?
all right.
He doesn't know.
Oh no.
No, it's not that. I'm trying to find a way to present it because it is The Lion King, the 2019 The Lion King.
Are you trying to present it not negatively?
Well, because I know there's this recent trend from Disney of making live action versions of all their old movies, and thus far it's been a dubious adventure, right?
Yes, it's been mediocre at best.
I liked parts from Beauty and the Beast, but anyway, but I am God, The Lion King is my favorite movie of all time, and I have nothing but happy memories associated with this movie. I remember at one point, Jake, I brought all 3 movies over to your house and made y'all watch it. And this was after I'd watched all 3 several times and had them memorized at that point.
Absolutely. Lion King's a good movie, so I can't blame you.
And, seeing the trailer that dropped a few days ago is just... I'm doing this thing where recently just all this nostalgia is hitting me, and it's what I'm excited about. And it's nice, and the animation, for the animals is really crazy that we've reached this point.
But?
No, there's no but. There's no
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm sorry if I sound so hesitant. No, it looks amazing. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer. It's great.
I have not seen it. I just need one question. The animals talk, yes?
They do. The entire trailer is narrated by Scar.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so that's exciting. You get to see the scene where he tells Simba to never come back.
Ooh.
So, I have a question, Alan.
Go for it.
So this is probably my biggest concern, among everything else. My biggest concern is that when you have realistic animals, you cannot get the expression that is in anime. How do you feel about this? Or maybe do you even disagree? Because I'm not sold on it, but maybe you could sell me on this.
I certainly don't disagree, but I think there have been, I'm okay with maybe the lack of expression, because I think recently we've had so many, anthropomorphic or animal movies that have just tread that thin line into the uncanny valley a little too much, and my eyes need a little, cleanse.
I see.
Yeah, I know that's probably unsatisfactory.
It's tough. With a lot of these Disney remakes, I guess, I think something that a lot of people expect, and I think it's reasonable to expect, is when you're taking something from one medium to another, which is 2D animation to live action, I don't think it's a problem for you to deviate a little bit from the source material, because there's obviously things you can do in live action that can add a certain flair to things that 2D animation could not do, and vice versa. You have 2 different mediums, and you can express yourself in 2 different ways. And I think this even happens a lot as well with animes and manga. People will continually critique animes for deviating too much from manga. But sometimes that can be a valid form of expression in its means of, doing that. So I don't know. I guess maybe, especially for Beauty and the Beast, I hoped for a little bit more, I guess, than just a carbon copy, complete rehash of the old. Because one of the biggest problems, I think this really hits home, is you have, who played Belle? I can't remember.
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson. Right. And she sung a lot of Belle's songs. And by all means, Emma Watson has a fine voice. But it was not, I don't know, compared to the original Beauty and the Beast, it was just, she can't compare. Because she's not a singer. That's not her main thing she does. So I feel like they could have integrated that a little bit better in adding, like, I don't know, maybe her own flair into the way she did something. Or maybe perhaps even having her, I don't know. I don't even know what I'd really add, but...
I think I can ease your concerns a little right now. Because one of my favorite parts of this remake is the cast and the two leads for Simba, Childish Gambino.
Oh my! Oh!
Wait, hold on. That's not even.
Oh! Okay.
Nala is Beyonce.
What? Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Never mind. Everything I just said, like past minute, just shit that off. That's actually pretty sweet.
Our two main leads, but there's even more. Like, I'm so starstruck at this cast. First of all, I think maybe the most exciting, Mufasa, reprising his role from the original movie, James Earl Jones.
No,
wow.
Mufasa.
No way.
Way.
This is wow. And it's animation too. Like technically, it's 3D animation. Wow. Well, gosh, maybe you got me, Alan. I kind of want to watch this.
Wait, there's more. One of my favorite actors, Billy Eichner's Timon.
Wow.
Was it the
I wouldn't have expected him to do that.
I wouldn't have expected Beyonce to be Nala.
That's true.
John Oliver, Zazu.
I'm looking up the cast right now.
Yeah,
Wow.
dude, oh my goodness. Like, when I saw the first cast list, I freaked out. And from, like, the Wikipedia page, apparently they're adding some things to the movie because they cast Amy Sedaris for a character that they created specifically for this movie.
Well, I'm pretty impressed.
It does have an impressive cast. My whole thing about remakes is, I mean, I think I've said this before, but remakes don't make sense to me because you'll never be the original. And I think that new movies of something else should just be used as kind of groundwork for a new adaptation of that same movie.
See, I actually agree with that. Maybe as a continuation on the thought I had earlier, I like that idea a lot. Because I think that would generate a lot more creativity in how they made movies.
Yeah. But, I mean, people love nostalgia, right? So...
They do. But, like, can you tell me, like, you're not excited for basically a cover of Can You Feel the Love with Beyonce, Childish Gambino, Billy Eichner, and Seth Rogen singing that together?
I mean, you're not wrong, and I'm gonna enjoy it. But I don't know if songs themselves can save a movie. So, yeah.
I mean, well, that was my favorite part of The Lion King. The music. Because it's like, the whole thing is just what? A furry version of Hamlet, right?
You should... The furry version of Hamlet. Definitely tell everybody that.
All right,
like,
well then, I digress.
Is it Keegan-Michael Key plays one of the hyenas? So does Eric Andre.
All right, you can have this. I just want the audience to know that my favorite part of Frozen isn't just the songs. I love the story too.
Wow, okay. Well, this
Frozen...
movie's gonna be great.
Wait, does Frozen even have that many songs?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Compared to, like, Princess and the Frog?
Wait,
you can't compare those two.
Yeah, you're right, I can't.
We're talking about the Lion King.
Remind me, Sal, how many songs did Frozen have? I don't remember.
I don't have an exact number, actually. I want to say, like, 8 to 10?
You know,
that might be stretching.
I think you're right. I think it's just because I only remember 2 of them because they're the most overplayed songs, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Do You Want to Build a
that's
Snowman and Let It Go? That's kind of all you remember. But yeah, Hans had his song, that's right. And the Trolls had their song, and there were actually quite a few.
Olaf had a song.
Olaf had a song. Okay, yeah, never mind. I take back.
Was it the director for the 2019 Lion King is also Jon Favreau? If you guys
9 songs. There were 9 songs.
9 songs. Wow.
But what were you saying, Alan?
Oh, the director for the 2019 Lion King is Jon Favreau. If any of you guys remember him,
I have no idea who that is.
he's the director of the Iron Mans, and he's also Happy Hogan from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, okay. That doesn't mean that much to me, but
Well then,
Sumimasen. I get it. I get the hype, and I'm definitely gonna go watch it. I'm just gonna go in with not big expectations, which I guess is a good thing for me, though.
that's okay. That's good for you. But I'm gonna watch this. Oh goodness, I just need this. I need this right now. It's in July, folks. July 19th. Another thing to add to our July list.
Hey, another great month.
Well, that's what we got excited about this week. Thank you so much for enthusing with us. If you enjoyed what you heard, share it with a buddy so you can nerd out together, like Jake did with us today. If you have any recommendations for improvements, feel free to leave them in the comments of our SoundCloud page. You know, if you want to help the show out, then the ratings on our iTunes and Stitcher pages really actually help out a lot. If you want a place to just hang out with us, feel free to join our Discord server. You know, we have dedicated channels for topic recommendations, show improvements, nut jar offerings. Links to all of these pages can be found on our website, thosenerdscast.wix site. That's wixsite.com/home. We also wanted to remind you that on May 17th to the 19th, the hosts of the Epic Film Guys podcast will be hosting their 3rd annual charity stream, Livestream for the Cure. You know, they've teamed up with the Cancer Research Institute, and they're hoping to raise $7,500 for immunotherapy research. Previous years, the Cancer Research Institute also matched the total donations that was earned during the event. And me and Sal and our good friend Suspiria, we're going to be making a guest appearance on May 17th at 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can catch us out there, and we're going to do something fun. But we're going to be watching for the entirety of the event. You know, it would mean a lot to us if you help spread the word about the event. You know, getting more people to watch and donate would be incredible, and it goes a long way towards a good cause. Again, that'll be on May 17th to the 19th on twitch.tv/epicfilmguys. Was it Jacob? Thank you again for joining us, and do you have anything you want to plug?
Sure. If you guys want to find me, I actually do a podcast about theology, history, and a couple other little things that I enjoy talking about. Definitely not nerdy whatsoever, but if you're interested in any of those topics, you can find it at burningbones.org/podcast. And that's it. I don't have a Facebook. Don't look for me on Facebook. Don't look for me on Instagram either. Don't look for me. Well, you can look for me if you really want, but...
you say I don't have these, and then you follow it up by "don't look for me," as if you have these.
That's right. No, I lied. I do have them. You can add me if you want. On Instagram, I'm Schaefer.Jacob. Facebook, Jacob Schaefer. You can look around for me if you want. If not, that's cool.
All right.
Sal, do you have anything to plug?
All right. So you can find me on Twitter at Salzik, on Instagram at Mr. Salzik, and you can find me streaming on Thursday nights with my friend Suspiria, and his Twitch channel is Where is Suspiria. We are streaming Red Dead Redemption 2, and we're almost finished, so that's at 6 p.m. on Thursday nights at PST. And then you can find me on my blog, gotamoment.com. That's GOTTA. And right there, we post a lot of photography and lyrical analysis and other stuff we're up to.
And you can find me on Twitter at ArielEyes_. I don't post too much, but it's a good way to get in contact with me or just the podcast in general. And you can also message us on our podcast Twitter at thosenerdscast. I want to thank you again, Jake, for being on. That was really fun to have you with us.
Thanks for having me. I hope we can do this again.
Hell yeah. And thank you, listeners, for, again, enthusing with us, and we'll see you again next Wednesday.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bowsette for Smash.
No!